Welcome. It's our first live panel discussion of the season, a momentous occasion, and it's a fabulous girly panel, which is brilliant because obviously we're talking about the women's wear. I will ask my wonderful panellists to introduce themselves a little bit. I'll start with Natalie.
I'm Natalie Theo. I'm a stylist at online shopping recommendation site called Dressipy, and I have my own site called the Fashion Chronicles, which I update whenever I feel like it, really. Sporadically.
I'm Camilla Morton and I'm a fashion writer.
I'm Mandi, Lennard and I'm a fashion consultant. I run a company called Mandi's Basement.
I'm Celestine Cooney and I'm a stylist and fashion director of Biannual Twin.
It's a great panel, a nice mix of women from different areas of the industry, which is fab. And obviously we're going to be talking about Alexander Wang. It's obviously a huge year for Alex Wang, so it's quite an interesting one to start with. I'd like to ask a little bit about why you think he's been so successful, both within his own label, but also obviously there's the Balenciaga elephant in the room. But what do you think's made his own label just grab everyone and kind of have this amazing rise?
Well, he does, I mean, you would know better as a stylist, but he does downtown chic, he does easy casuals that appeal to the uptown girl, the downtown girl, but also very early on with his label, he launched in 2007, very early on he established cult handbags that actually were put alongside the Hermes and the big brands straight away. And when you go around Soho or when you go for the knockoffs, Alex Wang managed to achieve such popularity so quickly with his bags that they became as cult as a Vuitton or a Gucci one. And I think that you could access him because you could buy the t-shirts. I think we could be starting. You could buy the t-shirts, you could buy the bags straight away.
Yeah. And also the younger market can buy into that whole thing without having to worry about it. And that's, I think that was a good one that tapped into.
I mean,
that's
amazing.
genius.
And also like all the advertising they've done, it's kind of been quite hooked up with music. Like Azalea Banks and D'Andford. I mean, like they're keeping that very cool.
That's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
You can just blend it into everything you've got.
Alistair McKim, a really cool kind of street type stylist to style the tea magazine.
Does the tea one,
campaign.
I also think he's cultivated a girl though.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of been consistent, and it's the same way he uses, like, let's say someone like Liberty Ross and Aaron Wasson, and then he has like his Hannah Gabbes and his like Julia Nobis, and he's bringing those really cool girls who have their own sense of style and kind of personality, I think, and they're consistently there, and it's really built a strong brand image of who the Alexander Wang girl is.
Actually, his pieces look like they've always been there, like you've always had them in your wardrobe, even though they're not. But it just looks like it's always been there.
From season to season,
and
you don't need to get a look of the season. You just get another piece to add.
This raises this really interesting question, which is a big question, but it's our first discussion, we should tackle big questions, which is the difference between fashion and clothes. And I think that's something really interesting with Alex Wang, because people would still say that his collections are interesting. I don't think anyone would kind of say it's just commerce, but then as you mentioned, the success of the tea by Alex Wang line and the bags, there is an element where it is clothes. So how has he managed to kind of walk that divide so well?
I think he's a very clever businessman, as well as being extremely hardworking. I think he's obviously very talented. What he's doing, he's managed to garner both of those things. But he is an incrementalist also. He is pushing things, and I think it's nice to see invention in fashion where he's using different fabrics and kind of working them in a way. I mean, he develops his own fabrics kind of 90% of the time, I think. He's developing like new fabrics and things that glow.
And also,
that was cool.
And why there was a little bit of complaining online with sort of prolific writers at the moment that New York was a little bit boring, a little bit dull, but it's not. Why does it always have to be sort of like a big, massive, crazy, wild statement? If you look at his pieces, sure, it's not just a t-shirt. He's, as you say, with his fabrics, with his little twists, and his basics are his basics, and they're actually not basics. They're pretty cool, and they work around the body in an amazing way.
I think there's more to it than just like making dresses and making, I think there should be invention in fashion. Otherwise, it's boring.
I think when he appeared in 2007, though, there was a whole new wave of designers. It was really exciting, and Anna Wintour was kind of hanging out with these kind of very young newbies, and he's really had the staying power, and he's really shown that he's got a very well-oiled piece of machinery as a company. Everything is well executed, and there's lots of layers to it. I mean, he did that amazing thing with the accessories after one show where they went onto eBay, and you could buy them straight away. It's just,
I'm interested because you both said, he just started in 2007. I think there's definitely this mentality about New York, which you kind of touched on, that it's not particularly exciting, it's not particularly new. But he's had this incredible success in a very short amount of time, in something people tend to sort of think that that's a London thing, to be able to do that, spring up, do something new, be very kind of edgy. What do you think's marked his ability to do that?
Well, he's just recognised by the industry really early on, and I think sometimes that's dangerous. I mean, Christopher Kane is the only designer I know of who was recognised by the industry very early on and actually rode that wave, and it didn't affect any coolness or anything like that. True. But Alexander Wang, I think within a year he'd won the CFDA, the Vogue Fashion Fund. It was $200,000, $200,000.
It was quite meteoric. It was
that kind of recognition.
But as you said earlier, he's got serious business savvy.
He's smart, but he also had.
What he's created.
It's not like he came out of nowhere either. He has his family support. There was support there in the beginning, and he's brilliant. And I think he
could have missed after a year.
He didn't get. He wouldn't have been able to go. I don't know if he would have been able to go and get a job with someone else.
I want to do my own lane.
He wouldn't have got a job with Balenciaga.
I mean, he's tuned into that. I think it is a young spirit, and he's just catapulted into lots of cool.
I do think it's easier to do that in New York, because I think that the shows in New York, I know
they lend themselves to that.
They're beautiful, and they're you've got like the beauty of Calvin Klein, and I mean it's Prenza Schoolers doing like the cool stuff, and then Rodarte was doing kind of they're really doing their own thing, and then Alexander Wang was kind of doing the cool, and there wasn't that many more.
No. But why does New York not have a reputation then for being like cool and experimental?
I don't think
it's demanded. The consumer doesn't. The consumer doesn't demand it. So maybe sort of someone like Alexander Wang is their little take on.
Is their super uber cool? Like that's the coolest.
I also think the way they teach at Parsons, or the way they sort of like structure students, I think that, and I think it worked for Alex Wang. I think a lot more emphasis is placed on learning the business and the structure and building a company and putting the foundations in, whereas at St Martin's it's like go off and create something cool.
That's really true.
And I
had an
think
office in New York for a while, and I remember I got young designers that used to come and see me, and the New York designers were so different to London. In London it was like they bought 3 pieces of clothing and it was like, what do you think? Whereas in New York they all had business cards, they all called their home like studio, and they had like beautiful produced lookbooks. I mean, and it was a bit boring. I mean, the sort of people that were coming to me, recommended by people like Patty Wilson, I mean, they just weren't exciting. And
do you advise young designers in London though? Did that kind of rub off a bit in your mind, and you think actually part of that's quite good? Do you tell that to the young designers you work with?
Yeah, when I do talks and stuff, I always say to them, how they should, they need to up their game, but that's people in London with that. And obviously, in the last few years, London have upped their game anyway. There's a lot more mentorship.
But with Alex, the reason that he works is, I mean, he studied at St Martin's and at Parsons, so he's had the mix of London and of America. So he's had the mix of two sides of the pond, and I think that's why he's sort of grungy and cool as well as commercial.
He's cool. He's a beautiful looking boy. He always looks cool and effortless. He does just like comes out and just looks beautiful.
They're worryingly empty looking seats there.
It's snowing. No, okay.
Yeah. Where is it? Is this the Chelsea Pier venue?
Actually, it's good. I don't know.
What show was before this? Was there something before this that might be?
Because obviously
maybe something's running late.
Yeah, they've got the sort of snow drama, which is where.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
of course. It's like proper blizzard over there. I've been seeing all the photos all day today.
Yeah,
it's quite fun.
What are you?
I love the snow.
What are you guys looking forward to for the rest of New York? Because that's quite an interesting thing. Because this is our first one, but obviously,
Marc Jacobs. Last season's Marc Jacobs, which was so phenomenal.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's not a designer I normally.
I agree. I love last season.
But I'm so excited to see, because that was Katie Graham's first show styling as well. But I'm very interested to see what he does this time, because that was just mind blowing. I can remember every look. It's incredible.
I'm always interested to see what Prenza Schoolers do.
Yeah, I loved it.
I mean, last season obviously you kind of wanted everything. It was a little bit referential to many other things, which happens I think sometimes. But I am always curious to see what they do, and I think they're designers again that are managing to kind of make this kind of cultish thing. They have their pieces that are amazing, and then they have the pieces that sell.
What makes a designer sort of, because I think this is quite telling for someone like Alex Wang, what makes a designer, a stylist dream, where you're just like, that's great, that's going to shoot really well, that's going to look really great?
I think it's about having like those amazing key pieces. Like I remember with Alexander Wang, it was one of his very early collections, and I wouldn't remember what it was, but it was which season, but it was a white leather jacket with full foxtails off each sleeve.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, I just wanted it so badly. And I remember it was about $5 or $6 grand. And I remember thinking to myself, how do I make this happen so I can have it? Which was bizarre. And I was like, I could sell my car. I could sell your car to buy a jacket. But you do actually reason it out like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have that.
Yeah.
I wanted to shoot it. You know, I think he makes pieces that you can wear and shoot, and it's kind of visually arresting, and you feel kind of awesome when you're wearing it.
Actually, for us, for the less sort of foxy trim ones, which are super cool, but for some of our users who come to us and they're sort of trying to break out of their little safe mould of how they dress, and they want to make it feel a bit different.
Not bonkers like the stylist.
No, I know, and they look at you and they think, gosh, what are you going to do to me? But those are he's the type of label you'd recommend, and then they often, they'll look at you and they'll think, really? And then they come back and then they suddenly become obsessed. It's a little bit like a Helmut Lang. It's this angular cuts.
Very easy
and,
crossover.
Yes, and it's a nice way to break someone's sort of conservative mould with his pieces, and just sort of snap them into something a little bit more enjoyable.
Addictive element as well to, you know, it's that case of like, once you've had a really great white t-shirt, it's very hard to go back to having, you know, just a t-shirt from
it's a bit
the
like
Gap.
when British Vogue
Snobbery with the t-shirts.
50 Tennison on the cover, and she was just wearing a Calvin Klein vest. It was like so shocking because it was like a cheap t-shirt. Well, expensive, but you know, expensive comparatively. And I think that's what Alexander Wang does. He you know, you will buy a basic piece for him, but you feel great.
You feel awesome.
Yeah, and you don't mind paying £100 for a t-shirt.
Yeah,
because you're also like
a twist.
You know.
It's interesting because we had a book club discussion here the other day when we were talking about Pattern, which is a new book that Fiden have done. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah,
it's got
Simona's in it.
Yeah, Simona's in it.
Yeah.
It's a great book. It's amazing, and it's 100 young designers. And in the preface to it, they talk about how this sort of set of designers at the moment, they are starting to reference, you know, the 90s. And I was thinking about that.
Oh my God,
it's
so insane at the minute. It's like
next generation, and it's like I can't relate to referencing the 90s.
Yeah.
But actually seeing someone like Alexander Wang do it is quite exciting.
Alexander Wang was born the year that John Galliano graduated. That's how far.
he's 28.
Yeah.
But even there's so many young ones. I mean, I think when they got there's that one at what's his name at Balmain? Olivier.
Yes.
He's like 26.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many of them that have started like super young.
Does that worry you though, Mandi? You work with so many young people. When you see young kids and they're so talented.
I just remember Mandi and you having, back in the day when I was at Dazed, you had like all the kids, Gareth, like the whole gang, and they were all babies, weren't they? They were all quite young. Mandi was like mama, and just had all these amazing young kids in your showroom.
Did you think that they were young then? I don't know.
Yeah,
they were young.
Does it not scare you a bit? You're not like, oh, this kid is so young, he hasn't even got his life together, how is he going to run a label?
The thing that I am reassured by is that young designers now that I meet and I talk to or come and see me, they're a lot more responsible for their own actions now. They're not living in cuckoo land anymore. They're not thinking, oh, I won't use that wool, I want the expensive one, and I haven't got any money, but it isn't fashion fabulous. They're a bit more real now, and I think that again, a lot of the bursaries, there's a lot of mentoring, and they get that support, and they have this whole business thing drummed into them. But very sympathetic with the creative. I think that London really gets that right.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned this, Camilla, when you were mentioning Parsons. Do you think that a part of the way they teach there does make these kind of people like your Jason Wu's or your Alexander Wangs that have this focus on, you know, the business? And do you think we're lacking that in London? You know,
I think
you don't get St Martin's being like, this is how you run a business.
I think we're starting to catch up, and I think that there are fashion fund initiatives. I think the CFDA have really led the way with that, and I think that Parsons and the way it's taught, but also I think over here we focus, you know, it's how you take your tea. It's a different
kind of about the individual.
And how much can we expect from someone? Gosh, you've got to be this creative genius, then you've got to be the most amazing businessman, then you've got to be the most incredible it's really, some people have the talent for it, and some people need a good team around. You know, it's impossible to be everything.
I think they're a lot more realistic now though. I think the young designers want their businesses to be successful, and I think that they want to be creative, but they're not going to die for that creativity, and if it doesn't work, they'll move on and do something else. It's not like like when I was starting out, where they were just, it was so, they were in agony because they were so creative.
And so poor.
Now
So
they've got the
Just
confidence to recognise if it's not working. I really do feel that from a lot of the ones.
What's brought that change? Do you think it is just it kind of had to happen?
I think it's the economy, the fact that their generation has been through a recession, the fact that, you know, if the family have lent them some money to start, they don't want to take advantage of it. There's lots of things. And I think also, you know, they're all enclaved together in the East End, a lot of them, and they all rub off each other, and it just seems to be that they are a lot more responsible now and they want to succeed.
I'm interested because I want to talk about sort of why things are picked up by buyers and how a young label goes from being, you know, something creative to being something very successful as a business, because that's something that did happen with Alex Wang. You know, I think it was after one show got literally hundreds of 200 buyers.
Yeah. Shocking.
How does that happen? Because you've worked as a buyer before. You know, what makes someone go, you know, that is going to sell really, really well?
Well, you know, it's really interesting because I work with Mrs. Burstein, who's very close to Camilla.
Yeah.
And when I used to get excited about a young designer, Mrs. Burstein used to say to me, let's watch them. Let's watch them. And actually, she was so smart because maybe the next season or the season after, they didn't continue, and it's as a buyer you have a responsibility, and you can't play with designers. You can't put them in a shop and then drop them next season. It's really cruel. So you have a responsibility. But Alexander Wang, I mean, that is building bricks for a buyer. That is just a dream. I worked on a party with him with Love Magazine at Liberty, and they did a customer event in the day, and I mean they were just. It was just insane. And I was looking at it with the kind of buyer eye thinking, God, this is like really sellable stuff. You know, really, really sellable stuff.
What makes girls want it so much? Because you write about fashion, kind of, you know, how do you translate something that is actually kind of a very basic appeal, you know, just like a great black dress, a great white t-shirt. How do you translate that?
But I think it's, as you said, it's about how he casts it. It's about the pieces. They're quite simple pieces.
They're very lifestyle.
But they're very lifestyle. It's like I will be.
It's like luxurious sportswear. It's comfortable.
It's just not as
it's sort of
easy
lux.
to wear.
It's
his
sort
spirit.
it's sort of luxe cool. It's like whether you're posh girl like Natalie or whether you're, you know, it's
Scott Personal.
no. But
she's going to dissect all of our fashion
t-shirts. Okay, I like my Alexander Wang t-shirt.
But what I'm saying is,
I've known you a long time. I think you're really posh.
I think it's
no, but what I'm saying is it works in Harvey Nichols as much as it works downtown in.
But all the layers of the collection fit different stores as well, so that actually stretches the range.
It's really, you can just say it's a t-shirt. It's not. Okay, it fits differently.
It's a super brand.
It's cool.
Like,
but he also
Supreme or Calvin Klein or Coca-Cola.
But also when he did
that's what he's done.
And
aren't his parties supposed to be quite
wants
cool?
it.
I've never been to any of them, but apparently you always read his whole
He loves
but also
MIA and Azalea.
Do you think that's important? You know, because I don't think people kind of credit him enough for doing those things like those music collaborations. Do you think that's actually?
I think most people don't
they
really.
do. I think
they get it. Everyone.
No, but that's the point. That's the point. I think
that's what's
the
cool.
cool layer appreciate that, which is actually very clever.
I think he's quite multi-layered, and I think, you know, different people tap into different bits of him, and I think that's why.
I might not get the cool, but I like the
t-shirt. No, I'm not saying
that makes total sense. I think there's a spectrum.
The music bit went over my head, but then he has also. I mean, there are several it pieces that he's designed, like the American football collection. Do you remember when I read, you know, and then the rivets, and he was one of the first to sort of like do rivets again for a while, but he also
he makes you think I can actually wear that.
You know, he actually didn't do sport growing up, and that's why he's got this fascination with it. So there's always an athletic undertone in his collection. I think you should tell them about the latest viral. That viral where everyone ASAP and everyone are in it in the shop. It's so funny.
What's her first name? Something Kwee. Do you know what her first name is? I can't remember what it is.
We're not cool enough.
They've basically done like she's like this comedian.
Okay.
She's kind of like a character. I can't believe I can't
she's
remember her name.
She's playing a ghetto character.
And she's
bad
just like,
attitude,
girl,
bad attitude.
I'll tell you. You know, she's so like that. And they have her in the store, and she's basically working there. And so they've done a whole skit with like Alexander Wang and like Shannon Cliff.
You see, that's genius.
Yeah,
because if you're watching that, you just think, oh, now I want to go, and I want to actually be a
part of that experience.
One of the customers nicked 2 bags, don't they? And the guy who's the creative director at Barney says, "Oh, you know, she just took those 2 bags."
No, it's her. It's her. She's like, I saw you trying to steal this bag, and he was like, I was just looking at the bag. And then she gets sacked, and she legs it with like 2 of the bags.
But do you think
I mean, it's kind of
that would never happen?
there's a self-awareness to that, you know? There's a
Prada would never do that.
like it's so kind of like she's so terrible. It's just like so. That's what makes it great.
And what's
I
this
thought
on
it was
his
funny,
website? Or
It's a recent viral.
It's just like
for the tea, for the tea line, I think.
It's for tea, and then they'd done like that with Deanford, and then they had Azalea Banks. I mean, that was at the time when Azalea Banks was like the coolest. Deanford was the coolest.
Oh no,
Cool.
ASAP's front row.
Yes.
He's in the video and he's so amazing in it.
Do you think
in the
the
viral
shop with the bad attitude girl as well?
do we not see enough of that in London? Because you all mentioned this idea of layers, and I find that really interesting. Do you think we're not seeing that kind of savviness enough with the young designers in London being like, you know what,
having a really broad spectrum.
Yeah,
I think they're doing that though. They've been under a lot of pressure, the designers here, to do these pre-collections.
Yeah.
That's a very big ask from a young designer.
That's the money.
And who believes that about 75%, I don't know the exact amount, of the buyer's spend is on these pre-collections.
It's not even on the main line.
No, I mean
that's where the money is.
And
It's
they
the
don't really make
prequel
an
and the
effort,
accessories
you know,
are the money.
What
A
just
lot
gives
of
you a
big
way into
designers.
designer?
It's interesting though that he hasn't had a perfume yet though. Is
He
he
probably
so?
doesn't need one yet.
That is interesting, actually.
You know, he's so.
does
subtle.
have
Absolutely, all
everything
that
else.
sporty stuff.
No, but do you know what I mean? It's
You're right. It could be like,
Sweat
probably doesn't
scented
need it
perfume.
yet.
well, maybe he doesn't need it, but it's just he's been very clever hooking into all the.
But he's young. I think,
Exactly.
you know, we've all said he started in 2007, but it's really easy when you think about how successful those bags have been.
That is interesting. I've never thought of that, and I'd be curious as to why that has not happened yet. Because
Because
there's no way he hasn't thought about it.
No, I mean,
There's no way he hasn't thought about it.
His girls don't wear perfume. They don't even wear deodorant. They're just rocking it up in their boyfriend's t-shirt.
They've got a bag.
All
And
the
that's
hairy
it.
armpits.
no, but you know,
But it is. What is no?
it's a little.
Maybe he just.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is he has a brand that is as far-reaching as a brand that's got sort of 20, 25 years behind it, and it's actually only 6 years. And
It
I
feels
think
like
that-
it's been there forever.
Yeah.
As long as sort of you've been flashing your Calvin Klein underwear.
Yeah,
you've
no,
been wearing
because
Alexander
when I
Wang
used to
t-shirts.
go over and do the shows,
Yeah.
you'd arrive and this would be the first show that you would do. You'd get off the plane, you'd be starting to feel a little bit iffy jet lag wise, and you would suffer through the day. You'd get to this, and then you'd knock yourself unconscious.
We should mention actually that this isn't the beginning of New York Fashion Week.
No,
It's
no,
started
no,
on
no,
Tuesday.
no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of,
Well, there is
But isn't it interesting that in
Bell.
London we have like cool shows throughout the week, and
Yeah.
in New York it's almost like
They build it up and then that's it.
New York
But
are
don't
like
you think in London there's just, it's almost like there's too much, you know, it's
yeah,
great,
punishing.
but it's just like
really
everything is
punishing.
crammed, like you're up at 7 and you don't get home till 9, everything you've seen has been pretty much
but you
amazing.
See, when we used to go to the shows, way back, remember it used to be 12 o'clock at night. You used to get locked out of shows because you were late. Remember the traffic, the rain? Do you remember the Julie McDonald show? You got locked out. It was 12 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah.
The one the Spice Girls were in.
Yeah, but
So you know what I mean? Shows at night.
But
It did.
she had bad acne in her
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
12 o'clock at night. We were locked. Do you remember?
no, I do remember.
It was
but also,
chaotic.
we were doing
So
them
this seems quite
pre-mobile
tricky.
phones,
it's kind of much worse than Paris.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
the only ones I remember in Paris being crazy was the McQueen shows. They'd always be on last in some location, an hour in a cab outside. You didn't
Oh
know
no,
where
we'd
you
get
were.
lost
It
going
was
to those
crazy.
too.
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
Yeah.
And then you would fight with the taxi drivers.
And then
Joanne
you'd
Furness
be
was
in
actually
Fight with the taxi drivers.
Joanne Furness was actually telling me that she covers the shows for style.com, and London there's so much good stuff and it's so packed in. It's the biggest punishing schedule for them. They really don't know how they're going to get
It's
all
hard
the
to give
well.
each designer due attention. I think that's a thing with London
Yeah.
that you forget, you know, how different and how diverse that schedule is, but also how
But it's a
packed
great
it is.
problem to have.
Yeah,
It's a
definitely.
little bit regimentalised. It's like go, 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 go.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I want to go back because you mentioned the viral, and I think that's something that's worth talking about. Is these designers that are kind of exploiting and really making the most of the
Tapping
web?
into something.
Because we've seen that, you know, each season there are more designers doing
What about
digital
Alba Elbaz?
shows.
That's worth a mention, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
They do.
that.
Theirs are always so good.
Yeah, but that dancing, you know, everyone
dancing
loves it. I go on it when
And
I'm
the recent
stressed.
Skype
cool.
one as well.
Mm.
Was it Alba Elbaz who did the recent one with the Skype? Someone's
No,
just done
I've
one
seen
where
that one.
where they're Skyping on the viral.
Oh, I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
I think it
Didn't
is
see
him.
it. Why do you think
No,
there
I
are
didn't
some
see that.
big luxury brands that, you know, they're just still slightly afraid of doing something that's that
You
little
can't
bit?
control a lot. So you can put it out there, but you really then cannot control or damage control any. You can't control the interaction. That's why the public loves using it so much.
But do you not think?
I think
do
like
you
an
not
older,
think-
more traditional
but you can't-
house would maybe. I mean,
fear.
apart from like Lanfa, I mean,
It's a little fear of it.
But he has that humour, and I think that's what made it work.
Don't you think that Celine is so precise? Do they really need to get into this whole viral thing?
No,
it suits some brands and it doesn't suit others, and you're right.
I'm sure that if she did it, she could do it tomorrow. It'll be
she could do something
just
super
right.
cool.
It just wouldn't. Doesn't really feel right though.
But do you not think that in some occasions, you know, there's a sense of the brands that get on it the most, they get on it quickest, they actually have the most control? So something like Burberry, you know, they've got on it so fast that actually every image that goes out so perfectly.
They sort of control from what happens in the boardroom to what goes out to that last tweet. There's one sort of seamless, continuous line, and it's the same mood, it's the same ethos behind it. But that's because he was supported from the top. See, it was Angela's just got.
They're all breathing it.
They're all breathing it. They're all doing it, and that to have that support behind you, and to get on that bandwagon before anyone else does is ingenious. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but he employs a pretty wow team. I mean, he
it's
had
incredible.
Sylvia Farrago there, who was doing. She was the photo editor director at Days for years. And then she went to New York Times, and then she was at Burberry, and she's left since. But he's had very dynamic people bouncing ideas with them. Even Alistair, who was at Days Digital, went there.
I think they've kind of been. I think Christopher's been really clever about the way that he's done it, though. Because do you remember it was Danielle Westbrook head to toe Burberry with the baby, all the Burberry just had to go. And then he came. I mean, that was just spiraling out of control, and everyone was laughing at it. And then Christopher comes in and he kind of reins it all back in and makes it cool.
That was also to do with the new CEO, wasn't it?
The
woman. She was pretty amazing.
Was that Rosemary Bravo.
Did she bring him in?
I was going to say Juliet Bravo.
Mandi, don't show our age.
Rosemary Bravo,
But I think what he did was he basically focused on all of the amazing things, that part of the heritage, the traditions, made it cool, and then just used all the cool British kids.
Basically on Twitter, you want to listen to his music, his little playlist he puts on Friday or Monday. You want to see his tweets.
And the
it's
bands
brilliant.
that play the parties and all that.
But you want to look at it, and now you want to follow it.
But also I think that Romeo Beckham is a case in point too. You know,
what's
happened is he's friendly with them. He's just had this idea and he's run with it. You know, it's his prerogative, and I think there's no rules anymore. You can do whatever you want, whatever you feel. And I think if that person who's a creative director can do it,
once it works.
But it's obviously not like that in every company, and I think it's because he's had the great backup behind him, and they've just obviously supported and understood it. But I'm sure in other cases it's a little less easier to let go.
I'm sure Christopher Kane is going to be given a lot of free rein. I mean, they want that spirit.
It's
clever. Of that person.
It's really clever.
But that's what's interesting about Alex Wang doing it so successfully. You know, getting these cool people in, whether it's like it's for his viral videos or whether it's just like the models he gives his t-shirts to or something. But do you not think that's actually very hard when you've only been around for 6 years to be confident enough in your identity to be like, these are the girls that are going to sort of wear my line?
Because he's building a web or a company or a sort of brand that is aimed at his own age range. So he's speaking the language of the people he's putting it out to.
I think he knows he's good. And he's getting feedback to say he's good, and he's thinking, I am good, so I'm going to trust my instincts on this. And everyone's just coming back going, you're amazing.
It's a tiny scene in New York. You know, when you go out, everyone knows everybody.
Really,
that's interesting. Smaller than London, and like, you know, when I was living there, it was almost like when you're working in fashion, you either go to all the posh Prada parties, or you go downtown.
Or you go uptown.
There wasn't really a kind of crossover, and I think he's the nearest you get to that crossover.
That's so true.
That's really interesting.
That's true.
Do you think that, in a sense, it's almost easier to do something exciting in New York than it is in London? Because I sometimes think, imagine if you're a kid right now coming up St Martin's, you'd look at that schedule already.
Really? I think it would be easier to do it.
Got a debate going.
I'd be interested because you're
I think
all the London kids.
I think it depends on the personality.
In London, because in London I really do think you can be whoever you want to be. And I think that London Fashion Week can digest it. I mean, there isn't the same off schedule that it used to be, but still it's got that spirit. But when you go to New York, Milan is quite boring, but New York is very straight. It's very strict as well. You know, like things like hustling to get in shows and stuff like that. When
you can't go. You have to.
Really strict.
You have to have RSVP'd. Like if you try and go to a show in New York, if you haven't RSVP'd to it, and the Englishmen are also well mannered. In London, it's just complete chaos. You just turn up, and it's
and then like that's not your seat. Sit in that seat.
That's interesting. But why do you disagree there?
I guess I think it's probably easier to do it here because you're surrounded by all of this and you're like, oh yeah, well if they're doing it, I can push it a little bit more and I can.
But also,
I just think that if you're brave enough and you kind of know what you're doing, it will be easier to kind of stand out from the crowd and be spotted a little bit more and put in with this cool group. There's not very many of them over there. There's like 3 or 4.
I think it's quite
and it just give you a different
Yeah,
place. And then here, I think there's so many cool ones.
Tara Subkoff and those type of designers, I think that they get lost in New York actually.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think that they're really special. I think she's still got it, but in the in the constraints of New York Fashion Week, I think that's someone who gets overlooked.
Do you think it is the length of that schedule, the sense of like journalists being like, oh, I'm just going to fly out for the good days and stuff? Because obviously we talked about
when we used to cover New York, we would be told that we could either go at the beginning of the week and do the young designers, and then there's a break. As of tonight, it will now from tomorrow will go to the established names, and you have DVF, you have the bigger ones from tomorrow onwards, and you would then have to stay on to do Calvin and Ralph at the end.
Most people obviously going to go, we'll miss those young designers. Whereas in London you can't do that.
And so then when you have a budget, you just have to go, whoosh, we'll go for the advertisers, because you have to.
I think the other thing that you have to remember is that you would be surprised by how many few people from Vogue magazine here go to New York Fashion Week. Very few.
Oh, we started.
The show is starting. Sorry to cut you off, Mandi.
Turn the music up.
It's Rocky. It is. The Eye of the Tiger.
Neil, can we just slide the cursor?
Is it loud enough?
Yeah, can we?
Okay.
Huge venue.
Well, the last few seasons it's been round, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Do you think that venue's making a point about the might of Alex Wang?
Enormous.
You got first leaves.
Interestingly, he banned social media backstage at his show.
Did he?
This season.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's got fur boxing gloves. Almost.
Well, he's
I'm
about.
not surprised. I think that whole
boxing
backstage access thing is just
got out of control.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And it gives so much away. She's actually got.
I guess if you want to make a really strong statement with the collection, people have already seen the
Love
hair and
the
the
hair.
And I love the toe cap shoes.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a sock over the shoe.
Yeah.
Pulled
It's
down.
got that kind of pointed.
He's about to go into a boxing ring in his.
It kind of
career.
reminds
She's
me
got
of
the gloves.
Yeah, the hair is cool.
The hair's beautiful. It's all about redheads.
Are they all redheads?
Yeah.
They're all well, so far. Oh. It might just be the ones.
Is that fur there? That's fabulous. He does do a very confident cut line.
And you know what? These looks, it's just a buyer's dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
With that coat, that's incredible.
Why do you say, so with your buyer's eye on, what is it that you go, okay, great, this is perfect?
Because it's not wishy-washy.
It's actually a leather jacket
If
over a
you've got
full
somebody
fur as
blind
well.
to just pick out
Yeah.
pieces, it would still work.
Yeah.
Look
As a
at
group.
each of those separates.
And the bags are fresh, aren't they?
Yeah. He delivers a new bag each season, a new,
That
sort of
bag
like
is
5
awesome.
Yeah.
With the 3
Yeah.
sections. That's a nice little briefcase for you, Celestine.
And it's very apt,
That
isn't it,
coat's
given the
amazing
weather
as
in
well.
New York. It's always nice
I
when
like
that all
the way
comes
the
together.
pony
Yeah, I
skin
want one of
wraps
those
there.
knits.
I'm wondering,
see the
I'm
way
wondering
it
actually
bounces
if
there?
they can get over Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, do we know what the weather's like today? Can people get into New York?
I think there are some flights
It's
going
pretty
out,
heavy,
but
like the snow.
It looked pretty.
Didn't look like
we
it
had
was
a
still
stream.
snowing.
They're not
I
flying
think it's
into
like
New York,
about
are they?
10 inches or something, isn't it?
It's snowing on the
I
screen.
loved all the headlines on Huffington Post and people like that going, "Oh, snow, New York Fashion Week." And it's like, well, anyone who's not in the fashion business, do they care about
Yeah,
it?
exactly. But it makes you realise how everyone takes it so seriously and everyone freaks out and you're all stressing out about your ticket request and you're like, well, I can't even get there, whatever.
Yeah, somebody from
And nobody cares.
Someone from WWD actually tweeted that Susie
Beautiful
Menkes was
colour.
late arriving in New York and that maybe
Oh, look, I love the drop waves. Because it's
really
kind
nice.
of, it's, that's almost a little bit 20s, but a sort
Modern
of
20s.
street
A cyber
grungy.
20s.
Yeah.
Kind of a really nice neat length.
Yeah. It's a really nice
And you
like
know
below
what?
the
These are
knee
the sort
length.
of clothes that you'd actually want to wear in New York.
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've got a low-key feel about them, but they're really cool.
But that's very telling that you said it, because I think there is an element where you know a collection is going to be well received, if the people sitting watching it want to walk out of the show wearing it. And I think
sometimes you go to shows and you need a degree in physics to work out how you're going to button it up. And then you know that it needs extreme styling to sort of grab the attention at the shows, because there are 50 shows that day and you need one to stand out. I love the soft zip and the button.
I don't think Sibling would be very happy about those mittens. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, oh my gosh, the Sibling.
It's such
it's a lot of leather. I think leather and fur.
The leather's beautiful, but it all looks so soft and simple.
Shearlings and then the knitwear.
That is a great bag, that one. You know, you could almost imagine putting your purse in the middle.
Yeah.
Three, your technical bits in the middle.
It's all compartmentalised.
There's a mini one.
He's already got people shopping.
Exactly.
That's
exactly it.
You view shows to either review it or shop it.
But then goes back to what I was saying at the start about fashion versus clothes, because even though it's got a shopping, so it is clothes and it's something you want to wear, it still feels like fashion. It still feels like a statement.
Without a disservice to him, these are clothes.
Yeah, these are clothes.
You know.
But they've got new details like the inverted pleats, the
boxing gloves.
The sort of the way he's dropped the hem length, the way he has the waistband.
It's almost like a jagged hem though. It's a stepped hem.
He's actually got like a microfiber woven through that sweater as well. I mean, that just looks really
it's very techy.
Yes.
What do you think there will have been? What do you think the pressure on him will have been like, given that everyone's going to be watching him this season because of Balenciaga? Do you think that he will have acknowledged that he really has to step up his game with this?
I don't think
he doesn't
have
have to step up his game.
He just has to
because last season was amazing.
He's got a fantastic team around him as well. Really cool people that kind of look after.
He just needs to be consistent.
Yeah, and this just looks like a wonderful extension. Like he hasn't tried hard. It's just a beautiful progression.
Yeah, I think he only ever needed to do what he's been doing.
Yeah,
you know, even with the whole Balenciaga.
I mean, clearly the show is on a larger scale, in that the venue has obviously had to expand.
That venue is monstrous.
But there were elements of theatre last season as well. You know, the venue was smaller, but you still had that kind of element of the theatrics. Yeah, exactly. You know, there was something
he's always had that big kind of
space
venue, show venue where you've got this kind of infinite space. Which
I think he's also saying, sorry to jump in on you, I also think that he's showing with the drape and the cut and the fabrics that he's but I think that he's also saying it might be, but
every show that happens, every show someone goes,
do you know that there's a Tumblr where Balenciaga did it first and they go back through everything?
Are you serious?
When Balenciaga did it and then when someone else did it.
Oh my god,
it's amazing. I bet you've seen it. Check it out.
Yeah, but he had to do a strong collection now to say, I'm still putting my 100% into my own label.
The designers have a lot of pressure though, because
I love that.
Winter collections are more important than the
sales
summer
wise.
So actually it's good that this has happened with
That's
the winter
interesting.
collection.
Can you explain just to our viewers why the winter collections are more important than the summer?
It's a bigger buy, it's a bigger spend.
Money.
And also the deliveries are a lot earlier now, so when you get the coats, which are kind of a big part of the order, they will sell out very, very early.
Do you know what's nice about doing these SHOWstudio talks? That we were talking earlier about fashion and clothes, and sometimes when you're a fashion editor or you're a writer or whatever, everyone expects you to look at it like fashion and really analyse it, but actually I just want to watch it and think, I would wear that. And so what if I'm saying it, because you're wearing it, you're going to wear it, and the way you're going to wear it is going to make someone look at it and think, I actually quite like the way you've put that together.
Even the way that the models have got their hands in the pocket, it's got this kind of
slouch.
That's his girl, and it's like the models that are always there, like Sarah Blomqvist. Do you mean there's always this Ala, and you just have Christina Cruz as well.
He's friendly with
they look like they're going to walk out of it.
Which I love. He doesn't just have the new young kind of fresh faces. He's got like the Liberties, and he often gets like Erin back in, and I think that's cool. It's nice.
She's not in the show. She's usually front.
Yeah, she looked great though last season. Han Gabby. Like it's a really,
she's my favourite. I love that.
I like personal style's amazing as well.
I like the tops. I like this neckline.
I like the back.
That's really sexy.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, he's a stand
I like the red hair.
That actually for a young girl is evening.
It's very good.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you say that.
It feels very
exciting.
It feels, I just think it feels, there's no kind of t-shirts, there's no tracksuit bottoms, it feels a little bit more...
Yeah, but there's sporty, bombery style jackets.
Isn't it great though that we're watching a show with all this grey clothing and we're all really excited?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think that's what's great because, you know, it's, I think this whole techie thing we're seeing in fashion, you know, where you're not quite sure what the fabric is and is it, you know, a trick of the eye, or is it actually...
utilitarian.
It's great that you can see that.
So he's done
That's
a lot of
design.
volume on the
like the
sleeves.
design is there, that's how we can have a muted palette. If
Yeah.
the design is there, the silhouettes are there, and just kind of like the textures, which is nice, but you can see...
You do want to touch those.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
You
the
know, you wanna
pony
feel
skins
that
and
shiny
that
fabric.
leather, that amazing butter
And you can
soft
see the
leather.
quality as well.
And he doesn't,
That's
he
what
almost
I think
doesn't
looks
need to do
really,
colour. You know,
really
it's exciting
beautifully
enough
finished.
with it being able to be so
Is it
muted.
And for selling, he can always just put it in 5 colours
That's
anyway.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Is it Carl Templar that's still...
Yeah,
I think so,
starting?
Yeah.
That top's cool.
Oh, the red
That's
isn't
very
quite matching the hair.
Oh, the little ponytails, yeah, two-tone.
Stickler for detail, Mandi.
Yeah, it's probably the new dip dye he'll do. Dip dye
that's
whole
a
pony.
nice-
That's a
Cut on the
that's a
shoe.
lovely reinterpretation of Maud Frison.
That's cool.
This reminds me of like a cool fashion show version of Game of Thrones. No, you know what I mean? When they were all the
Game
fur
of
and the
Thrones.
snow.
Everyone mentions Game of Thrones every season.
No, I've
someone is
never
like, it's
actually.
Game of
I've only
Thrones.
watched
Funny.
it now for the first time because of the
I
young
think
actors
it
in
is.
there. And I
I
just
think
thought, oh, they
the
look like Game of
Girl is a
Thrones.
warrior.
This
She
looks
is a
good.
warrior.
Yeah.
Very much so.
They've been
She's
doing a
very
lot of warrior
independent
design
woman.
this season.
Donna
Sorry.
Karan, you know,
Yeah.
it's almost like if Donna Karan started now, you know, that
That's
last
a,
look.
that's a really
Last look with
beautiful
That's a
look as well.
beautiful shrug.
Yeah, and I love the length. That kind of funny length, like the 3 different
It's a hard
tiers
one
is
to wear, but it's
cool.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Isn't that,
You need
that
the-
jacket was very much like Nana Cherry in that video.
Oh.
But the thing is, it's interesting that you say hard to wear because
Bomber jacket.
it doesn't feel hard to wear at all. You know, no matter,
No.
even though,
Take it
It
apart.
needs the heel.
yeah,
Every single piece you probably,
Those are
you know,
cool.
manage to work
Yeah.
with some kind of a look.
Great pants.
Great jacket.
Is it all in one?
I think it's
no, I think
it's
it's
not.
it's two
Oh, it looks
piece.
like
oh, actually no,
2 pieces.
It is
Yeah,
all
it's
in
a
one.
I can't tell if that's
Oh,
fur
look at
or
the hood
some
on
kind
that.
of
It is
mohair.
fur. It's a hooded fur bomber jacket.
It looks like it might be that.
And look at
kind of
that panel
mohair
she's got
wool,
along the
you know,
neck.
that mohair
it
wool.
looks like
I
it's
think
a
it is
slightly
actually.
matted mohair.
Because I don't think it's fur.
No, I think it's a
Do you know what I
very
mean? That
softly
kind of-
fine mohair.
So he's sort of
Like
I
a
think he's
different
brushed
kind of
it.
fabric
Yeah,
in it.
I think he's developed a fabric.
that looks like the closing look.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
It's wonderful runway, isn't it?
Yeah, awesome. I always feel bad for the girls when there's stairs though. You just like you see wince the whole
Oh,
way.
no.
The
What
shoes
we
look
used
okay.
to
But when you go
do.
onto
Yeah.
YouTube and you look at the falls from over the seasons, priceless.
I know it's my
Money couldn't buy it for the laughs, to be fair. So good.
bad. Of the walkthrough.
Well, that was a
That was
really
nice,
strong,
do you know what was nice as well?
strong
That was a
show.
nice subtle soundtrack.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
a nice
that's
backdrop,
true.
wasn't it?
With the rocky,
With the rocky
intro.
And actually, there's a lot of progression through the collection because it seems like there's a real kind
Yeah.
It felt
Yeah.
very refined, actually.
Yeah. And it was a big collection.
Yeah,
It was quite-
quite
that's-
big.
it was
How many
very
looks it
well-
was?
yeah,
quite
hefty,
doing
hefty
nothing.
collection.
But those little knitted hoods are what they wear on the boxing, don't they? There's like
Yeah.
the nylon, whatever the.
But I quite like
It's the
it.
little, it's the
the
little,
little-
the
the little
protective
cap
hats that
underneath,
they
yeah.
wear. Yeah.
It's like the girls on the way to the gym after the
But it's
office.
actually,
you know,
it's
quite
actually,
like
I
it's,
would
it's,
go to
it's
the
a
gym if I
beanie
could
over
wear
with the wool hood over it, right?
Seriously, I'd get a gym membership if that meant that you could go like that.
That's a great finale, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what are
That space is amazing.
what are our gut reactions to it? Everyone seems very.
That's
I think
exciting.
it's
Will
fab.
winner.
I think he's got
It's a
really,
I think it's a really good show.
and there are about
Strong,
8,
it's
10
short.
it pieces in there that you will see shot and bought again and again because it's targeted the retail side as
Yeah,
well as
commercially,
and
yes.
actually-
I mean, I can even the dresses, those
Yeah.
beautiful draped
However
dresses,
you
the two
buy it,
pieces.
You
can
can be
wear
really
it.
indulgent
Yeah.
as a buyer. If you pick what you love, it's still going to
Yeah,
look great
yeah.
on the rack.
That's
Do you
interesting.
know that is? It's really consistent,
Yeah.
and I think what I like the most is that it feels very refined. It feels quite grown up, strong.
Yeah.
It feels like it's nice. Actually, it feels like he's
Yeah.
kind of
It's quite easy.
ready, or he's
easy-
telling everyone he's ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like that
You know?
warrior aspect. He's like, I'm ready for it. You know, I'm
Yeah.
ready for.
It's quite easy for the customer as well. It is the sort of collection where you could look through a lookbook and think, I must order that.
Yeah.
And it's the non-use of colour, weirdly enough, that makes you
Uses the
not
texture
not
of the
feel
colour
so
palette.
overwhelmed if it's a shape that you may not have tried before. And you think, actually, this is cool, I can do it.
Yeah.
That beautiful use
Yeah.
is just blended into the shape.
I
That's
think it's the
interesting.
non-use of colour that makes it feel refined. Also.
Yes.
And actually, I've noticed
not
all
over
of the
the top.
design.
and
You
all of the
notice the
text.
cutouts,
Yeah.
Yes,
the
that's
lengths.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed the skirts,
You've looked at everything.
which is really interesting.
and you've picked up
And that was clever.
technical fabrics with it.
to do that.
I'm interested, Mandy, that you say, you know, it's considerate for the customer, it's simple for the customer. Do you think that a lot of the fashion we're seeing... Oh, there he is. Sorry, should we give him a round of applause? 'Cause it's so cute.
I love how he always does a bit of a run.
Oh, it's a massive venue.
Oh, he's so cute.
But he always does a run.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's
a long run.
This is him being sporty. If he wasn't sporty,
marathon.
I'm always quite jealous of his hair.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's got
It's like, I think that's what I'm trying to do with my hair, but it's... He's got the Asian hair, it's all silky and cool.
Can we talk a bit about Balenciaga? Because we've all touched on it a bit through the discussion, but I think it's because obviously we're going to see that it's going to be part of our fashion month. But what do you guys, was he the right man for the job? What do you guys think?
Why not?
I think that a lot of us really
Go for
wanted
someone
Christopher
young.
Kane to get
Yeah,
it.
I think that was my initial reaction. I just thought,
really
oh my God, I
honest.
couldn't think of anyone else.
But you
I
know
couldn't
he'll
think
do a
of
really
whoever
good job
wanted
of
to
it,
get
I
it.
think, for sure.
I just think, why not? I think
I don't think you can sort of judge how he's going to do or not until he gets there. I think he's sort of set himself up to say, I'm ready to do Balenciaga. And
That's
I
what that
can
show
do
just
it.
did.
Yeah,
I like
it did.
that. I think that's really sweet.
Yeah, that was a
But
little...
that's what it feels like.
That was a little bit of a sort of...
Wink,
this is
bit of-
my intention. It was a little bit of a just back off for a second. But I think at the same time, you can't judge somebody on what they're about to do until they've done it. Until
what
they've-
they usually
And
do.
also, to talk about Balenciaga at the end of this show would discredit what a great collection
I agree
that was.
completely.
No,
But
yeah.
do you know what? I think that I'm kind of over all the talk about it.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's been
the
really
decision's been
draining.
made, it's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
It's been draining on Christopher Kane, bless him.
Yeah.
It's been draining on the brand Balenciaga. It's just been this kind of continual gossip and also a lot of there's been times when people were announced, you know, some of the cool street websites were saying who got it and they were wrong and they had to retract. There's been loads of that.
Oh
rubbish.
yeah,
That's
because
horrible.
there was
And
released
it's
earlier,
almost
wasn't
like
it?
now let's just get on with it.
Yeah.
You know.
I think it's
it's
kind of
exciting.
nice to what he did there.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of garnered in me support. I've kind of gone,
Yes.
well done. You kind of stepped up to the mark, and now I'm like, okay, I would like to support him and see him do well at Balenciaga, and I'd like to see him, you know, inject some of kind of what he's done with his brand in New York.
Also, I just think, why not?
Kind of
There's a
into it.
game
Let's
plan
see what
there and they'll
happens.
do it.
It's going to be interesting, if anything.
But I think as much as he can, you know, he has shown people, look, I am someone to watch and I can do this. I think he's very much said, but don't take your eye off this label because I'm still delivering.
That's true. I think that's really
and
true.
it's quite cool about him. He has got his own strong label. It's not his
knows.
own brand.
He does this anyway. Let's not
Yeah,
forget.
so he does it.
this
That's
anyway.
him.
He does it well.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is no different to how he would normally do it.
I agree.
which is great.
I
It's
think,
just the timing that's making it.
he
You
just
know.
does it.
Anyway.
It's just interesting because we all have that in our head, you know, so you can't really look at the show without thinking of where he's going, you know?
Yeah. So we've all agreed it was a great success.
Yeah, let's give him
yes.
a little round.
Let's give him a round of applause and let's
Well
finish
done.
our champagne to round things up.